Hey guys, Charles Yeager for Tuts Plus. Today I want to show you how to create your own custom 8K environment maps right inside of After Effects using the plugin Skybox. Now what's cool about Skybox is it allows you to create your own equal rectangular environment maps. And if you want to, you can actually export an environment map animation that you can bring back in to use your 3D plugins. But a lot of times I just need a still image, and because I'm just using a still, I can export a much larger environment map, such as one that's 8K in size. This helps preserve a lot of detail in the environment map, and I can zoom in on it in a 3D space without losing any quality. And what's cool about creating your own custom environment maps is you can then bring those back in and use those with 3D plugins such as Element 3D, Shapeshifter for After Effects, or you can even use them with After Effects native effect, CC Environment. You can apply CC Environment to your environment map and then look around just as if it's a 3D scene. And one more thing before we get started, make sure you download the project files for this tutorial because I'm going to include 3 8K environment maps that I created that you can use in your own projects and check out for yourself. Alright, the 8K environment map that I'm going to be creating today, I'm going to be using Element 3D with Skybox to create my environment map. I'm just going to create a very basic one just so you can kind of see and get a feel for how to create your own environment maps. But the first thing we need to do when you create an 8K environment map is to create a little bit bigger composition than you normally would for a 360 video. Typically I do a 1080 by 1080 composition for my 360 environment videos, but since we're wanting a high resolution 8K environment map, you're going to want to do a little bit bigger. So what I recommend is creating a composition that's 1920 by 1920. This is what's going to enable us to get the 8K resolution we need from our environment map. The frame rate and the duration really don't matter in this case because we're just going to be exporting a still image, but just make sure it's 1920 by 1920 and click OK. Alright, what I've already got here is just a couple different shapes that I created with elements, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to up the particle count on element to 32, and I'm going to select a particle replicator shape of a sphere. So I've created this sphere shape with the elements, but it's kind of hard to see right now, so I'm going to create a temporary camera just so we can look around the scene here. Right click, create a new camera. I'm going to go to custom view here. Alright, we can see here I've got this sphere of shapes that I've created with element, and basically what we want to do when we initiate the Skybox script is going to create a camera right in the dead center of all these shapes. So our environment map is basically going to be like we're right in the center of all these, and these are going to be surrounding us. And once again, you don't have to use element for this. You could use particular, you could use shapeshifter, any 3D plugin, or you could just use 3D text and shape layers to create your own environment map. I'm just doing this so it's quick and easy. Alright, I'm going to exit out of this custom view back to the active camera, and I'm actually going to delete this camera now. And now that we've got our environment set up, I'm going to go ahead and run the Skybox script. So I'm going to go to File, Scripts, and click Skybox Creator. The Skybox Creator dialog box is going to pop up here. I'm going to select my composition. Mine is called Evo Map. And make sure you check that you are using 3D plugins if you are, and I'm going to click Generate Skybox Output. Alright, now that that's done, we can see that Skybox Creator created a new composition called Skybox Output, and we can see our 8K environment map starting to take shape here. So what the script has done is created this 360-degree environment from our environment map here, and we have a camera and all these other cameras created in our composition. I'm just going to rotate around here so we can kind of see. So this is our center point of our environment map here. And I noticed that all of my element layers seem to be facing the same direction. This doesn't look very natural. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to scroll down here to my element layer. I'm going to click it. I'm going to go down to particle look. And I'm going to set the particle size random to about 50%. And I'm also going to go down to rotation, rotate random. I'm just going to rotate this so the objects are not all facing the same direction. Just any random value will work fine. Now I can look around here. This looks a little bit better. Now if we jump back over here to our Skybox output composition, we can see that it hasn't refreshed here, but that's because we're going to have to manually refresh it. So if we go to File, Scripts, Skybox Creator, select Evo Map, and refresh. Alright, now that that's done, we can see that everything's updated here. And so basically if I zoom in here, you can see this is really detailed. It's 7,680 pixels across, so that's going to be where 8K comes from. So if we want to, we can go ahead and export this still image right now to use. But I'm going to show you a few extra tips here. So if we go back into our main composition, let's say we don't want this black background. Well, if you want to create a solid color background on your environment map, that's really easy to do. All you have to do is right click, create a new solid. I'm going to call it BG for background. And you can select any color you want. I'm going to make it kind of a dark blue here. Click OK. And in order for this to work properly, you're going to have to put this background behind everything at the bottom of your composition stack. And you're also going to want to leave it as a 2D layer. Now this only works if this is a solid color. Let's jump back over to our environment map output. I'm going to refresh this real quick. And now we can see that because we use a solid color, this is going to blend perfectly. Now you may want to apply a color ramp to your background, which is easy to do as well. However, you cannot do this in your main composition. I'll show you what this does if you do. I'm going to select my background, do Effect, Generate, Gradient Ramp. And I'll just make this kind of a blue color again here. So let's say I wanted my environment to be white at the top and blue at the bottom. Well, let's jump back over to our output. Let's refresh this. You're going to see what this does here. All right, now we can see what's happening. Because that's a 2D layer and we have 6 different cameras looking at it from different angles, the top and bottom cameras are seeing the ramp from a much different angle, so the white's kind of being clipped here, and it's not blending properly because it's supposed to be white at the very top and blue at the bottom. Well, there's an easy workaround for this if you do want to apply a ramp. It has to be a horizontal ramp though, but I'll show you kind of how to do this. Let's jump back over here. I'm going to turn off the background here so that we just have an alpha channel as our background. Now let's jump over to our output. I'm going to refresh this again. And now we can see if we turn on the alpha here, we can see we don't have anything in the background. So what we can do here is a quick, easy solution is right click, create a new solid. I'm going to call this BG. And what you're going to want to do is make sure you click Make Comp Size. That way it's the same width and height as your environment map. And the color doesn't really matter right now because we're going to apply a ramp effect. So let's go to Effect, Generate, Gradient Ramp. And like I said, you're going to want to make sure this is horizontal. You're not going to want to move these anywhere and get them off kilt because that will affect how the environment map is rendered. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. So I'm going to have this top portion be white and the bottom part be a blue color. Now if we drag this below our Skybox conversion composition there, now we can see that's behind the environment map that was created by Skybox. And this is rendering correctly where it's white on top and blue at the bottom. So this is going to kind of look like a white sphere at the top. Now we won't really be able to preview this till we export it out, but this is just how you can create a ramp effect on your environment map. Now one final thing before we do this, back in our main composition, if you're using a plugin such as Element, under Output, you're going to want to make sure you turn up the super sampling to at least 2. This is just going to give you a little bit more cleaner edges on things such as environment maps where you're really getting zoomed in on the detail. You're going to want those to be really clean. All right, now we're ready to export. Let's make sure that our main composition is set to full resolution. Let's jump back over to our Skybox output here. I'm going to do one more refresh just to make sure it's refreshed with the full resolution there. Now that that's refreshed, I'm going to close the dialog box. All right, now that we're ready to export, just select your Skybox output composition, make sure it's set on full resolution, and go to Composition, Save Frame As File. This will bring up your render queue, and I'm going to select to save this as a JPEG. So it just saves a JPEG image, and I'll just go ahead and name this Wireframe Environment. Click Save, and click Render. All right, now that that's done, I can go ahead and pop up this to preview the environment map. I can go ahead and zoom on this 100%. Let that load. You can see this is really high resolution, really detailed. So let's go ahead and bring this back into Element and preview this. Now inside of Element, I can go up here to select the environment, and I'm going to select my own custom environment that we just created. And there's the environment map we just created. I'm going to go ahead and select it, hit OK. Under Preferences, just make sure you're set to 8K resolution for the map size limit. All right, now that we're back in our composition here, in our element settings, I can go to Render Settings, Physical Environment, and Show Background. All right, now we can see that we've created our own custom 8K environment map that works seamlessly in Element. We can zoom in here and see the detail, very high resolution since it's 8K. And you can actually use this with the physical shaders in Element to basically create your own custom lighting from the environment map. So it's a really handy feature. And it just makes rendering super quick because now it's not having to render all those extra elements. I just render out that one file, and it's just a real quick and easy way to create your own custom environment maps inside of After Effects using Skybox. Hopefully you guys enjoy this tutorial. This is Charles Yeager for Tuts Plus.